So as the football world continues to be on a football lockdown, I thought I'd take a little look at what the state of football would look like in 10 years' time. But in this video, we're going to be taking a look at one team in particular, and that team is Crystal Palace. Hello folks, yep, that's right, welcome back to yet another Football Manager 10 years later simulation. Today, it's all about Crystal Palace. So before we jump into the future, to the old vortex, let's take a little look at what they look like right here, right now. So in this bizarre world, or in this current world, and your world, if you loaded the game, Roy Hodgson will be the man in charge, 71 years old. Will he still be around in 10 years' time? Who bloomin' knows? We'll have to find out very, very soon. But yes, the key man, of course, it is Wilfried Zaha, wherever he is. There he is on the right-hand side. I've got Jordan Ayew as well. Scotty Dan, he's getting on a little bit, as is Gary Cahill. So a lot of veterans there. But will they be there in 10 years' time? Well, let's break it down a little bit more detail before we jump into the time warp and have a little look at them. So here it is. Now, the history for Crystal Palace has been an up and down sort of club. They've been up and down the Championship, Premier League for a little bit. We're spending a considerable amount of time in the mid-noughties before getting up to the Premier League and staying there ever since. Now, can they continue? We'll see very, very soon. Luka Melazovic is the captain. Their vice-captain is Mamadou Sakho. Key player is Zaha. And, of course, hot prospect is Brandon Pierik. And a quick look at those players. Here they are in all their glory. We'll rate them as their most expensive. Wilfried Zaha is wanted by Arsenal and Liverpool. They've also got this fella, Sorloth. Now, in the real world, Sorloth is scoring goals for absolute fun for the Turkish outfit Trabzonspor. Now, will he come back and turn Crystal Palace into a leading Premier League team? We'll have to wait and see. Who else am I looking forward to see? Connor Wickham. What's the future for him? Of course, he's out on loan at the minute. It's just Sheffield Wednesday. 10.25 million rated. Bit under the radar as well. Who else? Maximilian Meyer, most expensive German in the world of football as well. He's here rated at 25 million, but will he still be there in 10 years' time? Let's waste no more further ado and have a little look and see where Palace are in 10 years' time. So here we are, boys and girls, into the future. And where are Crystal Palace? Now, that's the age-old question. I've not looked at the tables, and if I have, I've completely forgotten. But I'm going to take a punt and say the Championship. But could we be wrong? Crystal are in the Championship. They finished 5th this season. So, yeah. So, all the way back here into the initial season, they did finish in the relegation spots, 20th, in fact, going down to the Championship, finishing third again before finishing 4th. Get themselves back promoted, but then straight again relegated, finishing 7th, then 2nd, then 2nd, and then relegated just last season. And then they're finishing 5th this time around. Now, do they finish 5th is good enough for the playoffs? Is it good enough for a playoff final? And is it good enough to get promoted once again? Let's take a closer look at it. Clicking the old hoodoo. No, unfortunately, they bow out in the semi-finals against Bournemouth, come out on top. Now, if you have checked out the Bournemouth thing, you would have found that out anyway. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the good news and the bad news and the ugly news. John Mullin is the manager of Crystal Palace. I think is he a former Crystal Palace player? Let's have a quick look. No, former six-fingered banjo playing weirdo. He's also played for Sunderland, Preston and Rotherham. Long career, 1992, ultimately ending up playing in 2009-2010 with Accrington Stanley. Not really set the place on fire when he was a player, but he's now the manager of Crystal Palace. And he's doing okay, I guess, depending on how long he's been in charge. Mamadou Koulibaly. No longer Mamadou Sakho. It's Mamadou Koulibaly in charge as El Capitan. Bell Wilmot as well. Wally Jonk is the key player. And Charles Lawal is the man. Let's take a closer look at the team itself. Rated in most expensive order, Hossama Meyer is the most expensive player. He's an Egyptian fella who is a regen, so we don't know where he's come from. Let's have a quick overview of him. Is he a prospect? No, he's come from Zamalek out in Egypt. Leeds then picked him up for a steal, £425,000. Loaned back out to Zamalek before selling him for £18.75 million. He is a midfielder, can play anywhere down the middle, so he's a bit savvy. They've also got Joseph Owusu, another regen. £23 million rated, coming through Tottenham, then Watford and Crystal Palace, spending a lot of time down London. I've got the regen button on here. I don't. Let's whack that in there so we can have a quick look. Ben Newton as another regen. In fact, the highest ranked non-regen is Danny Loader, former Reading youngster, 19 years of old, striker, attacking midfielder, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, they picked him up from the six-fingered banjo playing weirdos for £11.5 million. He's been around a little bit since leaving Reading. He went to Everton, then Crystal Palace, Watford, then Burnley, then back down to London with Palace indeed. So Keith Kelly as well, not regen. Nerasho Karasawajajo is a Dutchie, 27 years of age, not a regen. He is actually wanted by Newcastle and Swansea, formerly of Rovers, who picked him up from Ajax for £6 million, and then they were sold later on for £6 million. Kind of wiped our face clean with that one on this one. So yeah, overall, not many players that stand out. I'm trying to see if there's any actual former or Palace players that were there 10 years ago. Cannot see any. Let's jump into the managerial merry-go-round, shall we? Quick look at the overview. Competitions first. Any surprise ones here? 2023, no, of course. Dominating the championship, finishing in third place quite a few seasons, and eventually up to runners-up. But no League Cup glories, nothing like that. Have a look at the managers. Now, Roy was actually sacked in the 2019 season after 2 years and 87 days. Sean Derry took over as caretaker before Alan Pardew came in for 4 years, just shy of 5 years as well. And then John Mullen's been in charge as well for pretty much a similar sort of style. So 3 years, 3 managers over the course of 10 years ain't too shabby. Now about the transfers. Let's have a take a look at all the business in and out of Selhurst Park. So kicking off with the debut season, the players going out. Jadio Riedewald went over to Leicester City for £16.25 million. He's still in the game. He's over at Borussia Mönchengladbach after spells at Everton and Fulham. You guys cashed in on him really, doubling up on your money, and it kind of all went downhill from there from Riedewald. Players coming in. You sport Mitchell Djiks for Bologna. He's no longer in the game. He sounds like a Dutchie. You also bought an Alioweski from Leeds, £8.5 million. He's still in the game at 37 years of age. No pace left, but still got amazing natural fitness. The Cosmos now own him. Are they in the MLS? No, they are not. Moving on, who else do we have here? Lee Zhang-Zung was bought in from Holston Kiel, and that's pretty much it. Besides that, Nico Tavares went out to Port Vale, and Patrick Van Arnholt went to PAOK. And again, he's no longer in the game, so we can't click on him, see where he ended up. Into the next season, you bought in an amazing keeper, David Raya, and they actually sold him, or somebody sold him to Blackburn Rovers. So Rovers sold him for $3 million way back when. You guys bought for 5.75. Rovers rebought him, and he's been a phenomenal keeper ever since. And his value is, around about the same amount that you paid. Who else did you bring in? You brought in Ken Zerma from Watford for £12 million. He's actually no longer with you guys. He's gone over to Pachuca out in Mexico. You guys kind of took a bit of a hit on that as well. 6.75 million. Watford picking him up for a steal from Osterlands as well. Timothy Fonsu-Mensah was bought in from Manchester United. Again, no longer with the club. He's over at Olympiacos now, 1.5 million. Again, you guys bought him, sold him for a little bit of profit. Not much to get excited about. Joe Rondon is actually linked in the real world with Manchester United these days. You bought him for 17.25. You sold him to Villa, who then sold him to Brighton. So he had a good few seasons at Villa. A bit steady Eddie at the back there. Didn't really explode just the way Man United are hoping he would do in the future. Aaron Pilkington was brought in as well. Not too sure about that fella. Yeah, kind of a bit of a bargain basement sign. As for players going out, Jix went to Huddersfield, 14.75, so he made a quick turnaround here. 55 million for Wilfred Zaha, went to AC Milan. He's on a free now, boys. Gobble him up, absolutely gobble him up. Sold for 55 million, they sold for 10.5 million. He's actually did okay in the past 2 seasons out in Saudi Arabia, but he's going for free. 36 years of age, got no pace left, he's ran out of gas. But could he still compete in the English game? Maybe. Christian Benteke went over to PAOK. He is no longer in the game as well. He had a good start in the real world, but then he kind of went off the ball. Never really reached double digits again. After selling him for 5.75, he went back to Belgium, their second string, and eventually bowed out of the game. You brought in, or you sold Ed Oates to Wolves under 21s, which is a bit of a bargain. Picked him up. Well, actually, they picked him up for 12.5. They sold him for 2.3. He scored goals, Oh, he's actually conceded goals. He's a goalkeeper. I didn't even know who he was. I thought, shit, he's just got a shit ton load of goals. Nathan Withy also went out to the reserves as well. So Crystal Palace generating a lot of talent. Making bang for the buck as well. Anyone else in there? Alowiski went to Brazil or Portugal even. Guadalmares. Besides that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Moving on to the next one. Who do you have here? You brought in the likes of Matt Olosunde from Rotherham, Ajeti from West Ham, Danny Loader, we've already seen him. Romero, that's a bit of a strange one. Right back now at Portsmouth, still knocking him out. So he kind of peaked really at Crystal Palace in the Championship. Doesn't really get any Premier League games. Sold Timothy Fonsu-Mensah already. Brandon Peddick, here's that youngster. Gone over to Middlesbrough. He's actually rated at £9.75 million. Butter are in the Championship as well. But yeah, you cashed in on your youngster, who's been a steady sort of player in the Championship. Jeffrey Schlupp went to Copenhagen. Of course, way back when he was tipped with Manchester United. Jeffrey Schlupp. You guys got him from Leicester. I think that's when he was linked. Was when he was at Leicester. Anyone else? Anyone else? Joel Ward to Newcastle. Sorloth went to Trabzonspor. He's still at Trabzonspor, becoming a legend out there. Double-digit man. They are very, very happy with him, and he's scoring goals for Norway as well. So Norway could be on the rise with him. So you generated a bit of sales in that season. Next season, you brought in the likes of Oliver McBurney for 3.6 million. He's now at Rangers. He's a deadbeat in FIFA for me. Not really double dip. He's scored a couple of goals out in Scotland. You also brought in Conor Gallagher from Chelsea, £11 million. He's now at Aston Villa. You sold him for 21 million, so good bit of business there. Adam Armstrong, you got him for £2.1 million. He's now over in Australia. You sold him for £8 million for Sheffield United. You did okay for you. Not really set the place on fire after Rovers' fantastic season here, which probably got them in the Championship. Look at Rovers' weird old thing. League One, Championship, League One, Championship. They're now in the Premier League, I believe, according to this. So they've been up and down the old divisions. You also bought George Dobson from QPR. He's now at Leeds. Players gone out, £19.5 million of talent going out. Ken Zermers went to Huddersfield. Dean Cotterill, another youngster. Alessandro Dela Cruz went out as well. Not really anybody. Luka Majalovic went to Ajax for £2.9 million. That's a bit of a strange one. Come out of nowhere there. Moving on to the next season. £32 million spent. Bringing in the likes of Sead Hasparovic. He's been up and down the divisions with West Ham. You guys then sold him for £28.5 million. That's a tremendous bit of business. For bringing in H to the game. Emmanuel Amansu from Austria. Adam Awaka, Moldling. Peter Osgaard, Duane Turton from Arsenal, who ends up being pretty shit. Not much of a pickup there. Callum Slattery, £2.1 million. He's now over at Trabzonspor with Sorloth and doing okay for himself. You did sell Rovers. David Raya. You've also sold Joe Rodon for Aston Villa. We already saw that. Danny Loader as well has gone. And that's pretty much it. Anton Nedeljkovic went to Aston Villa. He's now over at the MLS. So you bought him from Southampton for 6.75. You make a bit of profit on it, so not too shabby. Moving on, any other standout star signings? You spent £61 million this season. Mohamed Darmi from Manchester United. He's now over in China, so that makes probably going to mean you make a bit of money. Man United bought him for £1.2 million. They made him a chunk of change for £7 million, but you guys absolutely cleaned the house with a £23.5 million sell to her Chinese, whatever they are. Who else did you bring in this day? Ryan Kinsella, Cameron Carter-Vickers from Chicago. He's an American. He's now a Shakhtar. You actually sell him to Newcastle for also more money. So you guys like to turn the players around left, right and centre. Players going out. George Dobson went to Leeds. He made a profit on that. Jordan Ayew went to Pumas out in Mexico. Andros Townsend went to Greece. AIK is now available as a scout or director of football or something like that. Next season, you brought in £59 million worth of talent, but you sold £78 million. You brought in Ben Newton from Norwich. Still there. He's actually valued at £22 million and wanted by Newcastle and Swansea. Did we already see that? Yeah, that's a good bit of business, both from you and Norwich. Tavares from Brentford. Jota from Benfica. Which Jota is that? There's a couple of them knocking around. It's the former Nottingham Forest Jota. That's who it is. Leo Connor, £6.5 million. Shakio Penis, easy. Keith Kelly as well from Barnsley. You sold Vickers to Newcastle. You sold Ruben Duarte to Bashakir and Hama Chowdhury. Didn't even see him come through the ranks there. £8.25 million. You sold him to Swansea for a chunk of change as well. Did he ever get an England cap? No. He got a couple of under-21 caps. It's because of your big old hair, son. It's because of your big old hair. You sold Adam Armstrong, as we saw, for a chunk of change as well. Neil Ross went to West Brom for £17.25 million. You also sold Neil Hamilton as well. Sorry, Alexander Hartman, also to West Brom. And you actually cleaned the house with that. You bought him up for 2.9 million, sold for 15. You're absolutely ranking in the money. Into the back end of this now, £28 million brought in, or so actually sold, or whatever, spent. That's the word I'm looking for. John Lamb, Ben Wilmot, you brought in. Herbie Kane is still with the club, I believe. No, he's actually at Sheffield Wednesday. You sold him for... Wow, Blackburn Rovers put 13.75. You sold for 250. It's a bit of a loss. As for players going out, you also sold Lewis Fullerini to Newcastle, Xavier Quintilla to Bristol City, Jota to Aston Villa. You fleeced them guys. But Conor Gallagher, 21 million as well. Penultimate season, £94 million spent on Hossam Mala from Leeds, who is an Egyptian. We take a look at him already. Thomas Chacon from Nottingham Forest. He's actually gone down in value quite considerably. £32.5 million for Joseph Owusu. That is a hefty chunk of change for a player as well. As for the players gone out, you sold Julian Mason to PAOK, Birjani to China, Shaquille Penis, steady, to Lokomotiv Moscow, and Diononku to Brentford, amongst others. And into the final season, you brought in the likes of £47 million worth of talent. Danny Loader, some part exchange deals coming in there. Clive French, Diarra Gingoli from Manchester United for £8.25 million. Mike Preston. Players going out, £97 million worth of talent. H has gone to China. Who else? Mohamed Diarmi went to China. Diago Redoute went to Derby for a chunk of change. Sydney Tavares went to AZ Alkmaar. So plenty of money in and out. I'm sure you're pretty healthy. Your finances are okay. Let's take a look at the team of the seasons. This is it. The overall best 11 with Jonk between the sticks. Ned Lankov at left back. Penis, Rodon and Alawende at right back. Koulibaly and Gallagher in the middle. H on the left. Newton, Lee Junks, Jae Sung and Jordan Ayew up top. On the bench, Sarko, Ross, Meyer, Townsend, Milenkovic and Diarami. Where is Maximilian Meyer? We actually went to Werder Bremen, sold for free. Picked him up for a free, went back to Germany on a free. He did okay for you guys, not too shabby. How about the team of the season way back when in the initial season? The likes of Saha got in there with only a couple of goals though. Jordan Ayew with 9. Ain't too shabby on that bad boy. Goalkeeper was Guetta. Second season, David Raya came in at between the sticks. Nice 7.07 average. Jordan Ayew with double digits, as did Dela Cruz and Townsend with 10 goals apiece. Into the third season, Maximum Meyer got 10 goals. Jordan Ayew got 21 to secure his place in the starting 11. The following season, we got 26 goals from Jordan Ayew, 16 from Danny Loader. David Raya still between the sticks into midfield. Andros Townsend, Conor Gallagher chipping in with a few goals as well. Next season, 16 goals, Ayew once again. Hartman now between the sticks. Andros Townsend with a double, with 7 goals. Townsend got himself, Conor Gallagher got himself 9. And then a bit of a change of lineup up top. Darimi just the 4 goals. Bit of a weak season this. Hartman between the sticks as well. Carlton Vickers makes it into the 11. Adam Armstrong on the bench. Wally Jonk takes over between the sticks, 7.12 rated. 13 goals from Dan Rami in his second season. Lewis Florini with 11 goals as well. Next season, Ben Newton gets 10. Keith Kelly gets 11 up top. Wally Jonk remains between the sticks on the bench with the likes of Florini and Sydney Tavares. Into the penultimate season here, Wally Jonk remains between the sticks. You got the leading line of Keith Kelly with 9 goals. Honson Meyer makes in with 42 appearances as well, and a 6.7 point average rating. Final season, Wally Jonk remains between the sticks. Joel Carson at the back. Ben Newton, Keith Kelly, and Sonny McEachran leads the line with 16 goals, double digits from Keith Kelly and Ben Newton. And this is your overall. Look at that. Jordan Ayew, 92 goals in 230 games, basically a 1 every 2 man. And the highest rated player in amongst it is David Raya, 7.09 average. Quick overlook at the records here then for Crystal Palace. The most goals scored by a player is 26 by Jordan Ayew. Let's quickly have a look at that. So no one else really got close to him. The next highest was himself, really. What else do we look at here? Highest average rated is 7.25, Mahamadou Sakho with his season there. Next best is David Raya, well, in fact, Mike Preston with this actual season. Oldest player, do we have a look at that? I don't think so. Oldest player, 36 years, Gary Cahill. 2 seasons he stuck around, 2 seasons. But overall, that's that. So, yeah, ultimately, Crystal Palace are a flip-flop team. They go up, they go down, they stay around and all that kind of good stuff. I did predict Championship. They did end up Championship, and they'll start next season in this bizarre world in the Championship. Where will the likes of Burnley be? They are next as we break into the top 10 of the current Premier League teams. Will they be a Premier League season? I bloody hope not. Well, we have to wait 24 hours to find out. Thanks again for watching. Please like, share, and most importantly, hit the subscribe button to keep you bang up to date with all things Blackburn Rovers related, Championship related, football related. We've got it all covered right under one roof. And while I still have you, please be sure to check out some of the old videos scattered along here. I hope.